And welcome back to the Pitch Side Podcast. I'm your host, the HOD of the PSB. Like, share, and comment on the YouTube version. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Enable notifications to receive all the updates from these episodes. Of course, all the content on the channel. Follow us on social media. And of course, listen on Spotify, Google Podcast, or any other platform. Join us for more, and you're always welcome. It is Friday, so you know what that means. It is the weekend preview. A look at the big action, of course, from across Europe in this weekend. Now let's kick things off as per usual with the Premier League this weekend, of course, and the big focus is going to be on two massive games, I would say, in terms of the title race in general. Of course, there's big games across the board, I think, in this week. Of course, the round 28 of the Premier League starts on Saturday with a very tasty tie between Leicester City and Leeds United, albeit, of course, Leeds United, not exactly in the best position. They just sacked Marcelo Bielsa, and they're about to appoint Jesse Marsch at the job. Their form hasn't been good at all, of course. They have been losing games right, left, and centre with pretty embarrassing scorelines. 3-0 to Everton, 4-2 to Man United, the 6-0 to Liverpool, and 4-0 as of late to Spurs. Leicester City, on the other hand, they've been rejuvenated in a way. Of course, a victory against Burnley last time out, of course, on the midweek, to kind of balance things out after losing to Wolverhampton in the weekend. Of course, qualifying in the Conference League as well. It's been a good period for Leicester compared to the early goings of the season. The Saturday, of course, continues with Aston Villa facing Southampton. Burnley hosting Chelsea, of course, who, after losing the Carabao Cup last week and playing in the FA Cup in the midweek and barely defeating Luton Town, and of course they're in a big transition period. As we mentioned yesterday, they are to be sold. The club is to be sold by Roman Abramovich, who's stepping down from the ownership of the club because of the whole situation going on in Russia, and that is I don't think it's going to be playing a big part for the players, but I think as a structural shift that is abrupt and unexpected, I don't think that it's going to be that easy to deal with. But again, as far as the game is concerned, the game itself is pretty hard against a side like Burnley, who, despite their position on the table, which is still pretty dangerous, 18 with 21 points, they still had a couple of games, but also they're a side that can be very rough and rugged, and the last couple of games between the two sides proved that, in fact, the last game ended 1-1 between the two sides, and that was in the Stamford Bridge. That was in the Stamford Bridge back in early November, which is, I think, a very big testament to how this game could be hard for the Blues Chelsea, the European champions, who want to get over the disappointment of the Carabao Cup and also want to keep themselves firm in that third position, which is, I think, let's say, under threat from the couple of teams behind them: Man United, West Ham, and Arsenal. Newcastle United host Brighton Hove Albion, Norwich City host Brentford, Wolverhampton host Crystal Palace, and on Saturday, the last game, it's a big game. It's Liverpool versus West Ham United. This is a game that could define a lot of things. Obviously, Liverpool have no solution other than victory in any game, in every game that is coming for them until the end of the season. That is how things are at the moment. They are demanded, they are forced to win by virtue of competing for the title. There are 6 points off City, obviously, with the game in hand against Arsenal that yet to play. They're going to be playing next week. This is a game that, West Ham, they've been so good this season. They've been so impressive under David Moyes. They've beaten Liverpool in the first leg 3-2, in the first fixture 3-2, back in the London Stadium back in November, which was a real kicker as far as Liverpool were concerned. This was one of those games for Liverpool that you thought, you know what, this is the kind of results or the kind of games that Liverpool won't compete for the title for. Fast forward to early March, and here we are. Liverpool are 6 points of City with the game in hand and have a big opportunity to mount a big title challenge for West Ham United. As far as Liverpool are concerned, after they rested their players in the victory against Norwich City in the Cup, they will be obviously returning to full strength, and the first team is going to be featured, obviously, for this one, and it's just going to be a massive game as far as Liverpool are concerned. West Ham, I think, also have no other choice but victory, because the fourth place is slipping, I think, from their fingers, I would say. But because of other results that I'm going to be talking about, I don't think it's that desperate yet, or that bad of a situation yet. On Sunday, it is Watford versus Arsenal. A game that pretty much can be summed up by the fact that it's Watford, really. That's what people can say at the moment. Watford versus Arsenal. Arsenal are really favourites. Watford are in such a bad state at the moment. Even after the appointment of Roy Hodgson, their performance didn't improve a lot. Only one win in the last 5 Premier League games, which is not a good form, facing a side like Arsenal, who are on the opposite of that. Of course, 3 wins out of the last 5, and obviously one of those 5 is still to be played. Actually, they have 2 games in hand, which is, I think, even a big advantage for them in the top 4 spots place. They already have a game in hand, and now it's 3 for Arsenal in total, which is a big advantage, as I mentioned, as far as the top 4 is concerned, particularly in regards to West Ham and United. Considering that they are 45 points with 3 games in hand, there's a big potential for an Arsenal top 4 finish that would be really impressive, considering their early goings and considering the fact that everyone was almost demanding that Arteta is to be sacked. On Sunday, of course, the big games continue. It is Manchester United versus Manchester City. It is City, actually, who host against Manchester United. And as much as I want to say that City are favourites and they are the better side, which they are, to be fair, there is no doubt about it. Obviously, they beat them 2-0 quite easily in the first fixture back in November in the Old Trafford. It sounded easy because City made it look easy. Obviously, that game was pretty desperate, pretty deflating for the United fans to watch at the time. City rolled the ball around, they dominated them, they scored 2 goals and could have scored a couple of more goals, really, but it almost like they didn't want to. I don't think this game is going to be the same. I think if City want to win this, they're going to be intense because they know that Liverpool are breathing down their neck, and it's not easy, to let loose, even against a side like United, who can't seem to be consistent or find consistency at the moment. Obviously, they're out of the Carabao, they're out of the FA Cup. They have only the Champions League left, as far as United is concerned. For City, again, it's the title still up for grabs. They know that Liverpool are behind them. And for United, it's really about momentum. It's about momentum. If they start well, they will finish well. If they start bad, they will finish bad. It depends, really. It's not necessarily a guarantee. But for the most part, if they start well, they can have a decent game. But obviously, quality, I'm not to say quality-wise, but concentration-wise and probably intensity-wise and consistency-wise, City are the better side and definitely favourites to beat Manchester United in that game. Always the derbies are always unpredictable, to be fair, but it seems to me like City, their need to win and their intensity to win might be a double-edged weapon, actually. It might be a good thing for City to keep them focused and very intense in the game, and it might be actually the opposite. It might push them towards the edge and give them a game like the one they had against Tottenham, where they seem to be not focusing exactly on defending, and the defending was a big shambles in their game. United, maybe they will play on that. Maybe they'll go ultra defensive for Ralf Rangnick. Who knows how things are going to be going? In my money and in my books, I see City as favourites, but I'm not going to be surprised if United pull it off. This is one of those games where it depends on how City are going to be playing, or City are going to be focused much, of course, and the choice of players is going to be very important in determining that. And of course, lastly, it's going to be Tottenham versus Everton. That's going to be on Monday. Big game for Spurs, just eliminated out of the Cup. Everton just qualified to the next round of the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. This is going to be a game between 2 sides. I'm not going to say on opposite form, because both sides, are losing so much of the last games. Of course, Everton losing 3 out of the last 5, and Tottenham also, losing 4 out of the last 5 or 3 out of the last 5 in the Premier League games. It's definitely a game between 2 sides that are in sort of a transition period, I think, or somewhat of a changing of the guards for Everton in particular, who under Frank Lampard are still trying to find their feet. They're just above the relegation zone, 3 games in hand. Obviously, that might be a big advantage for them. For Spurs, they want to make this one count, because every other point dropped or lost, it means no, it means no more chances in the title race in the fourth spot race. Sorry, as far as the Spurs is concerned, it's definitely a race against time for them. And amongst the statements of Conte and the impressions of Conte of not being happy with how the club is being run, all of that, and his very, very incendiary comments about the boards, it looks like Tottenham might not be focusing enough on this game, but they will need the victory, of course. Dele Alli will be facing his former side potentially if he starts this game. This is going to be a pretty exciting game, I would say, to watch after the Man United-Man City derby on Sunday. Of course, the big game from round 28 of the Premier League.